Your favorite game is a boring clone of something that was good years ago. Seriously, every time a game comes out and blows up, we're plagued by hundreds of shitty copies. And because we're all so desperate to relive that tiny shred of happiness we felt, we eat that slop up like the fat little piggies we are. I love roguelikes and I love creature collection, but let's not pretend these genres aren't dying from three major problems. The first is that they have absolutely no new ideas. If you played one roguelike, you've kind of played them all. Spawn in, kill some trash, get some random upgrades, die over and over until you get that one magical run that gives you a taste of power and makes you realize there is something deeply broken inside of you. Die! Die! King die! And worse, creature collection is so uninspired nowadays that every time something new blows up, it's mostly because people hate Pokemon and for some reason desperately want a Pokemon killer. Despite, most of these games looking like mum, we have Pokemon at home. That's why when I saw Aethermancer, a creature collection roguelike, I was honestly not excited. It's my two favorite genres combined, and all I could think was, great. Now I have to be let down by this too. I begrudgingly loaded up, picked my starter, blinked, and realized 10 hours had passed. Oh no, it's good. That's somehow worse. Don't get me wrong, this game is not unique. Every single aspect of Aethermancer is ripped off from somewhere. I mean, look at this. You tell me right now these guys don't love Wizard of Legend. They even got the dash. But somehow Moi Rai games, despite taking inspiration from literally everywhere, have made something that feels not just new, but fresh. You're an Aethermancer, Syriax, with one goal: journey to the center of the void and stem the corruption. To do this, you'll need to tame all sorts of mythological creatures, name them totally serious names: Tanuk, Tlare, Cock, Gargle, and of course, Tentai, and use them to fight hordes of even more terrifying monsters, area bosses, and eventually God himself. Sounds fairly straightforward, right? Well, it is until you get to the combat. Yes, it's turn-based, but it's incredibly complicated and confusing, and that makes it incredibly satisfying. Holy crap, that pussy just beat my cock over the head. This isn't your classic turn-based grass beats water, water beats fire, use mana to take attacks. Sure, there are elements such as earth, wind, water, fire, and wild, and each creature tends to have two types of element. But to actually use your moves, you have to spend Aether of specific elements, a limited resource that is generated through basic attacks or crazy combos and builds you're forced to think up on the fly. But it doesn't stop there. Every creature also has three trait types combined with a signature combat style, and this is where it starts to get a bit wacky. Every time a creature levels up, they get a chance to pick moves, traits, or auras of one of their three types, which will mix and combine with all the different choices you've made for your other creatures. I kept picking Retaliate and Redirect moves, so now whenever I get attacked, Sausage here jumps in front, tanks it, and then hits the enemy for like 4 times the damage they did to him. But the thing is, Gargle keeps applying shields endlessly, so Sausage doesn't even take damage. All while Tentai back here keeps using Aging trait to generate Wild Ether until he comes purple on the... Oh, he's gonna do it right now. Ready? There are dozens of trigger words like on interrupt, retaliation, aging, wild damage, temporary, burns, poison, weakness, purge, steal, summon, power, sidekick, shield, terror, and I could keep going, but I think you get the idea. Such complex mechanics look intimidating, and at first I thought I'd be turned off by it, but the devs have done such a good job building the UI to make everything incredibly clear. Enemy moves are carefully telegraphed, showing who they're targeting and with what. Health bars, Aether, and even enemy moves update to show the results of the choices you're considering making. Tooltips are placed carefully to explain keywords perfectly, and if you're able to spend a small amount of time reading these tooltips, it quickly starts to not just make sense, but get you excited to try new insane combinations. Die! Or the same one over and over. All of this bloody warfare, of course, like all roguelikes, takes place across 3 major biomes, split up into 4 stages, with each being guarded by a final boss. These stages are randomly filled with not just monsters, but NPCs, events, items, shops, which, depending on what you can find, completely changes the course of your run. The key difference, though, is that each stage isn't necessarily linear. Sure, you start at one spot and you eventually pick one of the 3 exits to leave through, but the order you take to get there is entirely up to you. You can spend time carefully avoiding fights, picking up boons, buffs, or items throughout the level, and then pick off enemy packs only once you're ready. Or you could avoid them entirely and head straight to the exit. Sure, you might be underleveled if you choose not to fight, but you also avoid the deadly corruption. And this is where the true difficulty comes from. Whoa, why am I starting combat with such low health? You see, like all roguelikes, Aethermancer is a game of risk versus reward. Fighting monsters will level up your team and give you gold to spend, but any damage you take will give you corruption. The more corruption a creature has, the less health they start combat with. Yes, there are ways to remove corruption, but they're random and not guaranteed except after each boss. And when you inevitably fail to balance this because you chose to rush to the next biome, well, things go wrong quickly. Whoa! Whoa! And once you've watched your beautiful friends get murdered right before your eyes, you're sent packing back to Pilgrim's Rest, where you can not just exchange Aether crystals for meta upgrades, but also slowly see the entire town be rebuilt and repopulated with the NPCs you've rescued along the way, making this, yes, technically a roguelite. Shut up, it doesn't matter. Well, that leads to the second problem. It doesn't matter how fun or interesting combat or progression is if all the creatures you're collecting are boring, unoriginal, or technically all the same. I am a huge Pokemon nerd, and even I'm willing to admit that all grass types are kind of the same. Yet Yes, there are small differences, but nothing that completely changes how you approach the basic gameplay. In Aethermancer, however, not only are these monster designs incredibly refreshing, cool, and unique, while being clearly inspired by ancient history and mythology, they all also have their own signature playstyle. Take Cum, for example. Sure, he isn't technically named Cum, but I called him that because every support move and basic attack he does, he generates thick white soup known as cooking stacks. The more stacks he has, the more power certain other moves become, such as boiling soup, which on top of its normal damage will apply 4 burn to the enemy per cooking stack. Taste my hot load, you little freak! This was insanely overpowered when combined with my Cock's randomly acquired trait that every 4 burn stacks an enemy gets, I generate 2 bonus fire Aether, which lets my Cock apply more burn stacks to the enemy for free, continuing the loop. And if hearing a grown man discuss his Cum and Cock burn strategy doesn't excite you, then I don't know what YouTube wants anymore. These different playstyles actually encourage you to constantly try new creatures rather than focus on just the builds you like, because the more you understand how a creature works, the easier it is to murder brutally when you find it in the wild. Alright, this book just keeps fucking one-hitting my team, and you know what they say, if you can't beat it, join it. And it's dead immediately. God damn it! In fact, everything about the creature collection aspect is designed to let the player have flexibility and freedom to play however they want. The actual capturing method is fairly straightforward and weirdly easy, which at first I wasn't a fan of, but I realized this was done to allow players the freedom to use whatever creature they loved. All they have to do is remove a monster's armor, use a blank memento, and turn the little guy into a tiny living keychain where he'll suffer forever until you summon his soul to fight for you later, even if it's a biome boss. I love Tentai. I'm just blasting my purple load over everyone. I'm unstoppable. No! And when you inevitably lose a monster, while incredibly punishing, it doesn't always mean the end of a run. Each zone tends to give you a chance to resummon a new monster to replace a dead one, or if you have too much corruption and want to swap it out. The problem is you need souls for this, which are randomly dropped throughout the run, and the options to summon mid-run are random from the pool you've already captured. That said, thankfully when you summon a monster, you get a big boost of experience, so it isn't immediately one hit after joining the team. This feature, like the UI and so many others in the game, make it clear that the devs have spent an utterly amazing amount of time carefully balancing difficulty, scaling, and most importantly, making sure you can play however you want. Which leads us to the third problem, replayability. How much can you really play this? Nowadays, gamers don't replay games. They consider beating the final boss the end, a chance to move on. Gaming has become a very disposable medium where we rush towards the goal rather than enjoying the process, and that goes for roguelikes as well. But for me, I play games because I love to dive into every single aspect, and Aethermancer feels like a game I'll be playing for a long time. Sure, I've beaten it a few times in full, but it took me several runs to reach the final boss, and several more to actually beat it. But despite all of this, I'm nowhere near done trying out all the different traits, elements, and playstyles. I feel like every run I find myself saying, ooh, if I combine sidekick and summoning, that could go nutty. I'll do that next run. And not only are there a lot of creatures already to capture, but there are alternative bosses, hidden creatures to unlock later, heroic modes that make things more difficult, and of course, the game is still in early access with a massive roadmap of new content already planned, promised, and partly delivered. Aethermancer is a strange game. It's a complicated, messy chimera of dozens of different inspirations and mechanics. It shouldn't work, but it's so clear to me the reason it does work so well is because the devs have spent so much time and care creating an environment that is difficult but rewarding. It's complex but clearly explained. It's random but doesn't ruin the player's agency. I'm gonna name this crocodile Crocodile. I'm a father. That said, the game does have one massive problem. The capybara mayor of Pilgrim's Rest is literally forcing his child to run on a water wheel to power the entire town, and that's fucked up.